Welcome to Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. I've got one of my two blinds set. This tractor's making some noise behind me. Let me move a little bit. The whole idea here is to create an environment for the late season where the deer are going to be coming to a more concentrated location. I've got a lot of food on the farm. In fact, I knocked down a spot in front of that blind so I'd be able to shoot, and there was quite a bit of corn left in there. It was a spot where they'd been feeding. There was a lot of corn that was already down there, so it's kind of a natural place for them to go to anyway. So I think they'll accept that blind pretty well, because it was only 20 yards away from that spot when I got here. Now today's the Thursday the 14th, and we open up on the 18th. We're in December. I'm going to come back again and I'm going to pull the cards out of these two cameras before I decide where to hunt or when to hunt. I'm going to be really particular about that, and after I get this second spot set up, I'm going to come back again at the end of the episode and talk, more detail about why that's important. Camera information is always important, but never more so than right now. I'll talk about what I'm getting, how I'm going to use it, and how that's going to affect the way that I hunt the late season. Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail, Fuse Accessories, Elevate Tree Stands, B3 Releases and Broadheads, and Hoyt. Got the second spot set up. I have a bad feeling about this late season now. The deer aren't hardly eating anything. Maybe they're eating the greens. I'll check that big brassica patch in the valley and see if they're eating on that, but they are not working on this corn at all. There's some spots there I had knocked down maybe 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I bet it was almost 3 weeks ago when I moved the blind to have a spot to shoot back in there, and they haven't even eaten that corn, some of it, but that just tells you that they aren't working this very hard, because the first thing they'll eat in the corn is the stuff that you knock down, and they'll feed on the rest of it a little bit, the standing stuff, but it's just easier when they can eat it off the ground, and that's usually what they'll grab first. These deer are going to be tough to kill. They don't seem to have any stress whatsoever. I mean, I'm standing in a little patch of brassicas here. They haven't hardly eaten it. Tracks in it, there's some tracks in it, but they haven't eaten very much of it. So if they're not eating corn very much, and they're not eating brassicas, which is my greens, then they're not very hungry right now. And it's been warm enough that there's no urgency in the way that they're feeding. It's not like they've got to get there because they're under stress. They aren't under stress. Deer are hard to kill when they're not under stress. So it's just it's gonna be a waiting game. Maybe I can kill a couple of does in some other spots while I'm waiting for these two locations to pick up these bucks that I'm hunting. There's still 2 of them here that I know of, and maybe we've picked up more since the gun seasons have come in, and maybe pushed a few deer in here. Gosh, if I was a deer and I got ran in here, I'd never leave. There's food, cover, water, very limited hunting. This would be my home. So I'm sure it'll fill up eventually, but I have to be careful that you know, I don't let it fill up too fast. So that's it for now. I've got to check these on, today's Thursday, I'm going to check them on Sunday, and then I'll decide whether or not to start hunting on Monday. Monday's the first day when I can hunt again. But the whole thing is now, the margin for error is really thin. You know, you can't make any mistakes during this late season or it's just going to be over with. So I don't want to hunt any of these spots until there's a buck coming to them that I'd be happy to shoot, and he's coming in daylight or very close to daylight. And then if I get a cold snap, or you know, if he is already coming in daylight, then that's a green flag, time to go. But until then, you run too much risk of bumping the deer, and then you know, they never will start moving in daylight in those spots. So that's what I'm up against. I mean, the late season is always tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. With a bow, it can be really tough. I've had some success, limited. Maybe I've killed half a dozen, maybe a few more than that in 40 years of bow hunting during the late season. So the odds are never very high. But this year in particular, with the weather forecast that we've got being warmer than normal and all this food and no focus on these deer on the food, this might be my toughest season yet. But it should be fun. Every time I hunt, I'll post a video, and you can follow along and see if I can pull a rabbit out of a hat here. Come on. Today is the 17th of December, and I got back out and checked the cameras that I put out on the 14th. So that's 4 days worth sitting on food sources, most of them. A couple of them are, one's on an open gate and one is back in the timber. Interestingly, the one back in the timber had a lot of daylight photos on it, and none of the other ones had much for daylight. So they're still moving back in the timber. You know, I don't know what they're doing back there, if they're feeding or they're still, you know, chasing around like it's a, you know, a pretend rut, or what the deal is, but still some daylight activity. I didn't find either of the two bucks that I've been hunting all season on these cards, although there was one camera that didn't take a picture. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to check it tomorrow to find out. And unfortunately, that was the one I was most interested in. That was right on that food plot on top of the ridge, right in the middle of the area where those two bucks are living. So I may go and hunt that spot tomorrow evening anyway, and just kind of assume the best on that one. The weather forecast doesn't look good. We've got a week, almost a solid week coming up of east and southeast winds, except tomorrow, Monday. It's supposed to be cold, high here in the mid-20s with a pretty stiff northwest wind. So this might be my one chance to see some daylight activity on these plots. Interestingly, the buck that we're calling the Jordan buck, it was a deer that we'd picked out for her to hunt that, you know, just didn't work out because of her injuries, but that deer is still alive. He made it through the firearm season. I'm not going to hunt him, and if Jordan continues, or if she does get back out, she can hunt him if she wants to, but that buck could make a real good jump next year. He's, I believe he's 4 years old now, so next year he'd be a prime target, and he could be a really good one. So that was encouraging. Didn't see anything else really that jumped out at me on the cameras. So I'm just going to play it by ear, but I do think I'm going to get out and hunt tomorrow evening. I've got to take advantage of this one really good cold snap before these mild and easterly wind days start to roll in here. So come back again. I'll either post that hunt tomorrow night, Monday night, or Tuesday morning. So check back and see if that worked out for me. I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you right back here in a couple of days for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.